This vast desert may look like an empty stretch of sand. But what if I told you that beneath its dunes lies the story of humanity itself, from prehistoric footsteps to prophets who changed the world, from forgotten kingdoms to the rise of a modern state? Saudi Arabia's land has carried secrets that shaped the destiny of civilizations. If Saudi Arabia wasn't the land of Mecca and Medina, do you think it would still hold the same place in the hearts of millions? This story is not only about a modern kingdom built in 1932. It is about one of the oldest cradles of human history, where faith, trade and power converged. Today, we uncover the long journey of Saudi Arabia. From prehistoric Arabia, to the rise of Islam, to the unification under the House of Saud, and finally, its transformation into a global power. Archaeological discoveries prove that Arabia was never truly empty. Evidence shows humans lived here as far back as 300,000 years ago. In the northwestern deserts of Saudi Arabia, fossils of animals and stone tools reveal that this land was once green Arabia, with lakes, rivers, and thriving life. Civilizations like the Dilmun on the eastern coast, the Thamud in the north, and the Kingdom of Kinda in the center flourished long before recorded Islamic history. Ancient rock inscriptions tell stories of kings, tribes, and rituals. A 35-meter-long stone monument uncovered in Dumat al-Jandal proves that Arabia once had organized rituals thousands of years before Islam. These early civilizations show us one truth. Arabia was not just a desert. It was a passage for trade, culture, and migrations that linked Africa, Asia, and Europe. By the first millennium BCE, Arabia was already on the world map. Greek and Roman historians described Arabia in three parts. Arabia Petraea in the northwest, ruled by the Nabateans. Arabia Deserta, the vast dry interior with its wandering tribes. Arabia Felix, the fertile south. Today's Yemen, rich from frankincense and myrrh. In the northwest, the kingdom of Lihian at Dedan thrived from the 6th to 2nd century BCE, leaving inscriptions and tombs. Later, the Nabateans built their stronghold at Madain Salih, controlling caravan routes until Rome annexed their land in 106 CE. In the center, the Kindites tried to unite tribes from their capital Qaryat al-Faw in the 5th century CE. Meanwhile, Jewish communities lived in Khaybar, Taima, and Yathrib, later Medina. Christianity spread in Najran and the north, while Zoroastrianism entered through Persian rule in the east. But above all, Mecca stood as the spiritual and commercial hub. The Kaaba housed idols of Arab tribes, yet it remained a place of pilgrimage. Arabia was fragmented, but it was waiting for something that would unite it forever. In the year 570, in the city of Mecca, a child was born who would change the course of history, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. At that time, Arabia was divided by tribal rivalries, idol worship, and endless wars. But when Muhammad began preaching the message of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, in 610, everything began to transform. His message was revolutionary. It called for justice, charity, equality, and faith in one God. But it also threatened the old tribal order of Quraysh, who controlled Mecca's trade and the Kaaba. Persecution followed, forcing Muhammad and his followers to migrate in 622 to Yathrib, later known as Medina. This migration, the Hijrah, became the start of the Islamic calendar. From Medina, Islam spread rapidly. The Prophet united warring tribes into a single ummah, a community bound by faith rather than blood. Within a decade, most of Arabia embraced Islam. When Muhammad passed away in 632, the torch of leadership passed to his companions, the Rashidun Caliphs. Under Abu Bakr, Arabia was secured through the Ridda Wars. Under Umar ibn al-Khattab, Muslim armies defeated the Byzantine and Persian empires, expanding into Syria, Iraq, Egypt, and beyond. Uthman ibn Affan oversaw the compilation of the Quran into one official text. Ali ibn Abi Talib led in a time of internal conflict, setting the stage for future divisions. By the end of the Rashidun period, Islam had already crossed borders and continents. The Umayyad Caliphate, 661 to 750, made Damascus its capital, but maintained Mecca and Medina as spiritual centers. Pilgrimage to the Kaaba became one of the 5 pillars of Islam, binding Muslims from across the world to Arabia. The Abbasid Caliphate, 750-1258, shifted political power to Baghdad, yet Arabia remained holy ground. Generations of Muslims traveled across deserts to perform Hajj, ensuring that the Hejaz region never lost its central role in the Islamic world. Through faith, Arabia was transformed. From a land of scattered tribes, it became the spiritual heart of a civilization stretching from Spain to India. By the early 16th century, the mighty Ottoman Empire rose to dominate much of the Middle East. In 1517, Sultan Selim I took control of the Hejaz, bringing Mecca and Medina under Ottoman protection. The Sharifs of Mecca, descendants of the Prophet, ruled locally, but always under the shadow of Ottoman suzerainty. For centuries, the Ottomans provided security for the holy cities and maintained the pilgrimage routes, though their control in the deep deserts of Arabia remained weak. The heartland of Central Arabia, known as Najd, remained largely untouched by foreign empires. Here, tribes lived independently, far from Ottoman garrisons and governors. It was in this very heartland that a new power would emerge, the House of Saud. In 1727, the tribal chief Muhammad ibn Saud established the Emirate of Diriyah. A few years later, he formed an alliance with a religious scholar, Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab, who called for a return to pure monotheism and the rejection of innovations and idol practices. This alliance of sword and faith became the ideological foundation of Saudi power, a bond that endures to this day. The first Saudi state, in 1727 to 1818, expanded rapidly, capturing Mecca in 1806 and Medina in 1804. For the first time in centuries, the holy cities were under Najdi rule, but this alarmed the Ottomans. Sultan Mustafa IV ordered his viceroy in Egypt, Muhammad Ali Pasha, to crush the Saudis. His son, Ibrahim Pasha, led campaigns that destroyed Diriyah in 1818, ending the first Saudi experiment. Yet the House of Saud was not finished. In 1824, Turki ibn Abdullah al-Saud revived their power, creating the second Saudi state. Though smaller, it kept control over much of Najd. But rivalries weakened it, especially against the powerful al-Rashid family of Ha'il. By 1891, the Rashidis defeated the Saudis, sending them into exile in Kuwait. The holy cities, meanwhile, remained under the Sharifate of Mecca, loyal to the Ottomans, but often asserting local independence. For centuries, Mecca's Sharifs balanced between foreign suzerainty and local authority. But the age of empires was nearing its end, and the House of Saud would rise again, Stronger than ever by the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire was weakening. Their control over Arabia was more symbolic than real. Local rulers, tribes and dynasties were once again competing for dominance. Among them, the exiled House of Saud was preparing for a return. In 1902, a young and determined leader named Abdulaziz ibn Abdul Rahman al-Saud, known in the West as Ibn Saud, launched a daring raid to recapture Riyadh, the ancestral capital of his family. With only a small band of warriors, he stormed the city, defeating the Rashidi governor. This victory marked the rebirth of Saudi power and the beginning of the Third Saudi state. Over the next 3 decades, Abdulaziz expanded his control. He united tribes of Najd, seized the rich region of Al-Hassa in 1913, and built alliances through both warfare and marriage. His strength lay in the loyalty of the Ikhwan, a powerful Bedouin tribal army inspired by Wahhabi ideals. Meanwhile, the Arab Revolt of 1916 reshaped the politics of the peninsula. Encouraged by Britain and France, Sharif Hussein of Mecca rose against the Ottomans, dreaming of a united Arab kingdom stretching from Syria to Yemen. The revolt, immortalized by figures like T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia, weakened Ottoman forces. But when the war ended, British and French promises to the Arabs were broken. Instead of a pan-Arab kingdom, new borders were drawn, and Hussein found himself isolated. Britain shifted its support to Abdulaziz ibn Saud, whose disciplined warriors continued to expand across Arabia. By 1921, Ibn Saud crushed the Rashidis, his old rivals, ending their dynasty. In 1925, his Ikhwan army captured Mecca and Medina, ending centuries of Hashemite control. For the first time, the holy cities were firmly under Saudi rule. In 1927, the Treaty of Jeddah was signed, with Britain officially recognizing Ibn Saud as the ruler of the Kingdom of Hejaz and Najd. But Ibn Saud wanted more. He crushed the rebellious Ikhwan at the Battle of Sabila in 1929, consolidating his authority. Finally, on September 23, 1932, Abdulaziz declared the unification of his territories as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. From exile to empire, Ibn Saud had achieved what generations before him could not: the unification of Arabia into one state. When Abdulaziz ibn Saud declared the foundation of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 1932, the nation was poor, its economy relying on pilgrimage and small-scale trade. But destiny had something greater in store. On March 3, 1938, everything changed. In the eastern province near Dammam, explorers struck oil. What began as a single discovery quickly turned into one of the largest reserves on Earth. Saudi Arabia transformed almost overnight from a desert kingdom into a global energy superpower. Abdulaziz ruled until his death in 1953, laying the foundations of a monarchy that would be passed from father to son. His legacy continued through 6 of his sons, each shaping Saudi Arabia in their own way. King Saud, 1953 to 1964, inherited vast oil wealth but faced internal divisions and financial mismanagement. Eventually, his own family forced him to step down. King Faisal, 1964-1975, a visionary ruler who modernized Saudi Arabia while balancing Islamic identity. He used oil as a weapon during the 1973 oil crisis, making Saudi Arabia a decisive global power. His reign ended tragically when he was assassinated by his nephew in 1975. King Khalid, 1975 to 1982. oversaw rapid development funded by soaring oil revenues, but also faced challenges like the 1979 Grand Mosque seizure in Mecca, when extremists occupied Islam's holiest site. King Fahd, 1982-2005, declared himself custodian of the two holy mosques, strengthening Saudi Arabia's religious legitimacy. He led the country during the 1991 Gulf War, when Saudi Arabia allowed US and coalition forces to operate from its soil against Saddam Hussein. King Abdullah, 2005-2015, introduced cautious reforms, expanded women's rights, and guided Saudi Arabia into the World Trade Organization. His reign was marked by balancing tradition with modernization. King Salman, 2015-present, restructured the government and elevated his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, who effectively rules today. Under MBS, Saudi Arabia has launched Vision 2030, an ambitious plan to diversify the economy beyond oil. Social reforms have lifted bans on women driving and eased restrictions on entertainment, while at the same time, controversies like the Yemen war and the Khashoggi case have drawn international criticism. From oil wells to skyscrapers, Saudi Arabia now stands as both the guardian of Islam's holiest sites and a pivotal player in global politics and economics. It is a kingdom built on contradictions, balancing faith and modernity, tradition and change, desert roots and global ambitions. From prehistoric footsteps to ancient kingdoms, from the rise of Islam to the unification under Abdulaziz ibn Saud, the story of Saudi Arabia is not just the history of one nation, it is the story of faith, power, and resilience. No other land in the world carries the weight of being home to both Mecca and Medina, the two holiest sites in Islam. No other desert has transformed so quickly into a global powerhouse, shaping both religion and world politics. Through centuries of tribal wars, foreign domination, and internal struggles, Saudi Arabia rose again and again. Its survival is proof that this land holds a destiny far greater than sand, oil, or power. It is the spiritual heart of more than 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide. History leaves no doubt about its importance. Archaeology proves Arabia was among the first human homelands. Islamic history shows that Mecca and Medina remain the spiritual compass of the Muslim world. Political history reveals how the Saud dynasty endured collapse, exile, and rebirth, until uniting a nation in 1932. Modern records demonstrate how oil wealth reshaped not only Saudi Arabia, but the entire balance of global power. Whether we study religion, economics, or politics, Saudi Arabia's story is central to understanding the modern world. So what should we, as viewers and seekers of knowledge, take from this journey? The history of Saudi Arabia is not just about kings and battles. It is about unity rising from division, faith triumphing over chaos, and the way a barren land can become the center of global destiny. We should learn it, we should preserve it, and most importantly, we should reflect on how history can guide our present and future. Now, the question is for you. Do you believe the future of Saudi Arabia will continue to shape the Muslim world and global politics just as much as its past has? If you found this journey meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from Islamic and world history. Because the past is not just history, it is the key to our future.